So we'll start with the prayers to the spiritual master. Om Gyanam Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So last time we started with chapter 18 and yes, I think we ended here. Yes. So this is where we ended. This is a very long chapter. It's the final chapter. It's entitled The Conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. So it's talking about all the important topics, touching on everything, concluding. Like a good conclusion summarizes the main points, but at the same time, the conclusion is not just the summary, it also tells you the conclusion. What's the takeaway point? What's the takeaway point from that essay, from that chapter? So this chapter gives us a summary, but also tells us what are the takeaway points. And what is the final takeaway point of the Gita, which we see are the final few verses in chapter 18, which we are coming to. So Krishna talks about these 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. And the reason he tells us this is so that we become a little cautious in taking credit for all of our activities. Right? Why should we take credit? We are only one factor and the 5 factors that make any action successful. So the other 4 factors also have to line up for us to be successful. So how can we be so proud and think that I am the doer of all the activities? We are the doer in the sense that we are responsible for our part. And that's why we get the karma, based on the actions. But we are not the doer in the sense that if something is accomplished, it's because of us. Why? Because we may have a certain desire. The part where the soul is the doer is that the soul desires. The soul is the intention, the desire behind an action. And you'll see that in different places, Krishna says that you're not the doer. And in other places, he says you are liable or you are the doer. So this actually helps a lot in that understanding, well, in what aspect are we the doer and what aspect are we not? The soul is responsible in the context that the soul is a desirer. We may desire to go towards Krishna and make our life successful, or we may desire to enjoy sense enjoyment and go down to the animal species of life. Based on the desire that we pursue, we get a certain result. But we may desire to do wonderful things. But if Krishna doesn't give us the material body, meaning if he doesn't give us a suitable, a healthy enough body to do it, we won't be successful, right? So desire by itself will not make us successful. We may have such big plans. There's this one man, he has land right next to Gita Nagri farm, and he put it up for sale. It's probably still for sale. Um, and and just out of interest, we were leaving Gita Nagri, so I called that number and I spoke to him, and he said that, I bought this beautiful, it's something like 50 acres of land. It's like just picturesque. Gita Nagri in, where is it, in North Carolina area, is so beautiful. And all green and all these things. He said, I bought it, and then he built a beautiful house on it. He was telling the house has like heated floors. It doesn't have like normal heating. Then he built another structure on it that has like an indoor tennis something. It has a spa. And then he made a third structure for a barn to keep horses and cows. And then he put a well there. He put a septic tank there. And he made another house for one of his kids so that they could also move there. And when he completed the entire project, he said, just like a week before I was going to move there, he said, I was diagnosed with cancer. And he said, because when I was diagnosed with cancer, the first thing the doctor told me is that you need to be close to a place where you can get treatment. And that place is, it's farmland. It's far out in the wilderness, and there's no doctor close by. And he said, so I cannot get treatment, and this is going to be, I mean, perhaps my final journey, or maybe not, but then it's going to take many years for me to recover from this. He said, so now I'm selling it. So now I'm selling the land. So the desire was there, the effort was there, everything was there. But if the material body does not cooperate, then you cannot fulfill the intention of your action. And so how, in that case, it became obvious, but how dependent we are on the body, which is not under our control. But he didn't desire that his bodily situation would change in that way. That was something that was Prakriti, nature. And Krishna is controlling nature. So the material body has to be cooperating with us for us to do something. And if Krishna doesn't allow that, we can't do anything. So again, how can we be proud of anything that we do in this world? Saying that I did it. Krishna did it. Krishna allowed us to do it. Therefore, we did it. The third one is the various senses, karanam. There's so many senses. The senses need to act properly. The senses need to be able to sense things for us to perform the activities that we need to do. And the strength of the senses is also given to us by Krishna. The endeavor, cheshta, the effort to move the senses. So this is also Krishna's giving us the strength to function these senses, and the movers of the senses are actually the demigods. They need to be pleased with us also, because they're controlling each sense. Like our eyes can only work if there's light. So if there's no sunlight, if the sun god decides not to give us sunlight, the effort to see won't be successful. And then finally, you have the super soul, the most important of the five, the Lord within the heart, who gives us intelligence, knowledge, and forgetfulness. We may be so shrewd, we may be so intelligent, but at the moment that we need that intelligence, we may not be able to use it. And we think, what happened to me? If I just said this rather than this, if I just gone there rather than here, then everything would be fine. But that's not by chance. The super soul may or may not give us the intelligence based upon our sincerity, based upon our past karma, based upon our effort. So we see in the Mahabharata, like Karna, right? He's such a great warrior, but at the moment that he needed it, he could not remember his strength. And as a result, Arjuna, the devotee of Krishna, overpowers him. So the ultimate cause, I'm forgetting, the final cause, I think, is the Lord, and the original cause or something is the soul, because we're here because of our desire, and Krishna's allowing us to fulfill our desire. So in that way, we are the cause. Krishna's made a free world. But then the final cause, or the ultimate cause, is the Lord, who allows us to do something or doesn't allow us to do something. Even though we may desire it, he limits it. So an example is like a child and the parent. The child is the one who desires to play, but then the parent may set the rules of when they can play, how they can play. So for example, they can't use knives when they play, but they can use toy swords. So within those rules and the allowance that the parents give, if the children do something good or bad, provided they're old enough children, then they are responsible, right? Even if they're playing with a ball, they can take the ball and hit someone with it, or they can play it nicely. So in the same way, the parents are not responsible. They have free will. But in the same way, we are responsible how we use Krishna's energy. And in that sense, therefore, the karma, we are responsible and since we are, that's why we get the karma. But the ultimate cause is the Lord. If he wants, he can stop everything, not give us the freedom and the free will. He can, just like a parent can take away that freedom and free will. So Krishna can take it away, but he doesn't, because he wants us to learn and love him freely. So whatever right or wrong action a man performs by body, mind, or speech is caused by these five factors. Therefore, one who thinks himself the only doer, not considering the five factors, is certainly not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. So there's the factors that motivate action are knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. Knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. So those are the motivations of our actions. Based on upon our knowledge, we choose a certain course of action. We have a family tradition of carpentry. That skill is there. Therefore, the child may choose to be a carpenter. The object of knowledge, the result, getting a lot of money through the family business. That's the object of knowledge. And the knower, the person who has the knowledge. All three things constitute the motivation for an action. Three constitutes of action: the senses. You need those to work. The work itself, and the doer. These are the three things that constitute any action. So now Krishna tells us that these are the factors of action. This is what constitutes action. These are the factors of action. Now, based on the three modes of material nature, our actions are in different modes of nature, and we become entangled accordingly. This is the three-pronged weapon of material nature, which is the three modes of nature and how they entangle us: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And everything in this world is within these three modes. We have knowledge in the three modes. We have work in the three modes, the worker in the three modes, understanding in the three modes, determination in the three modes, and happiness in the three modes. And these numbers that you see below this, these are the verse numbers of Krishna going through describing the different modes of nature and for all of these things, these things in the three different modes. How do they look in each mode? And remember, this is like, at least the third or fourth time when Krishna is talking about the modes of material nature. So how important they are. Krishna is talking about these because he really wants us to reflect on which mode of nature we're acting in and how we can change that, how we can move up and act at least in the mode of goodness, if not on the transcendental level. So worshiping the Lord through one's occupational work is true renunciation and brings freedom from reactions. So when one worships the Lord through one's occupation, it brings true renunciation and brings freedoms from reactions. So this is a very wonderful point, a very beautiful point, and this goes back to what we were talking about, I think, last time, that our work in this world and our Krishna consciousness are not two separate things. They don't need to be two separate things. We don't have to necessarily separate them. Just yesterday, one devotee was asking me that, I feel so frustrated because I have so much studies to do, I have so much work to do, and I get no time for my spiritual life. And I always feel incompetent, incomplete, because I'm not able to find time to read and chant nicely and do my, absorb myself in Krishna consciousness. And so what do I do? And the solution we had discussed last time is that our work itself has to become a service to Krishna, because we'll never find a time when we will be completely free unless we take sannyas. And even they have so much work to do and travel and all these things. So our occupation itself, if we can worship the Lord through our occupation, make our occupation a service to the Lord, then that becomes renunciation. We don't have to say, oh, now I'm serving Krishna, now I'm not. No, everything I'm doing is revolving around Krishna. Krishna is the center. And then that work frees us from reactions. It becomes a path to freedom. By utilizing one's karmic propensities in the dutiful service of the Lord through varnashram, one will advance toward liberation. Text 40. There's no beginning, there's no being existing, either here or among the demigods, in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these three modes born of material nature. The Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes. O chastiser of the enemy. So all of the different varnas and ashramas are distinguished by the modes of nature that they are in. And this is a very kind of big topic because it's a big topic because certain occupations are more in certain modes, and that becomes a little controversial because like uh, the Shudra's work. Shudra means like any form of labor, just simple kind of labor work, or even uh, artwork, being an artist, a craftsman. This is by the modes is considered more passion and ignorance because it's yeah. So that's there, and then Vaishya work is a combination of like passion and well, it's more just passion, and then uh, and then Kshatriya work is passion and goodness, and the Brahmana's work is in goodness. Brahmana means like uh, studying, teaching, all these things. Kshatriya means uh, administration, power, leadership. Vaishya means mercantile, farming, and Shudra means labor. And so one can say, well, why is this in these modes of nature? You can find people who are doing their job very nicely and very much in the mode of goodness. And you can find people who are studying and teaching and very much in the mode of passion or ignorance. I teach at a university and I can attest to that. So this is why Krishna made this distinction. And because due to lack of time, we didn't go into detail in all of these. But you have the work and the worker, right? So the mode of work is is characterized in certain modes based upon the nature of the activity, but the worker may not be in that same mode, right? Just like anything that is hard and solid is characterized in the mode of tamas. You see, tamas doesn't just mean ignorance. That's the English translation. Tamas means solidarity, uh, kind of lack of fluidity. Um, tamas has many qualities. So it's not that every table is in the mode of ignorance, uh, and then other things like what is it, like I think fire and things, they're more in a different mode. Everything is characterized in certain modes. It doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that that's the nature that they're born with. Like in the Chinese tradition, you have the yin and the yang. The yin um, uh, signifies all things that are dark, soft, moist, valleys, and the yang is things that are bright, strong, structured. And one thing that they make clear is that this is not good or bad or good and evil. It's just different modes, right? But when the mode of ignorance affects the worker, then it becomes bad. So if I'm in the mode of ignorance, that's not good. But the work itself is just characterized by the mode of nature based upon the nature of the work. Therefore, it's not exactly characterized with good and bad. Secondly, if a Shudra is working for Krishna, then it's transcendental, right? That work is transcendental, though the mode of the physical work is characterized in ignorance, but exactly that's the point. If they're serving Krishna, then it's on the transcendental level. So let's read a little more and then it'll become more clarified. Text 42, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. 43, heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas. And for the Shudras, there are labor and service to others. So a Vaishya will never be employed because they are business people. They will always have their business. A Shudra will be employed, and that's labor and service to others. That's why their natural mode of work, because they don't mind taking orders from others. The Kshatriya also similarly is is an administrator in government service, a leader, or king, whatnot. And the Brahmana, in previous times, they also were not employed. The teachers were never employed. They worked off of charity. So they were independent. They taught their teaching was not dependent on someone else's pay. It was not you could say influenced by someone else's ideas, and they taught the truth, right? So these therefore became the natural qualities of each of these varnas. Although every activity, ashramas, no, varnas, yes. Although every activity has faults, one should not use this as an excuse to take up another's occupation. This is a verse that Krishna repeats twice in the Gita, and this is the second time he's repeating it, that though a person may even do their work imperfectly, and you can do someone else's work perfectly, but one should not take up another's occupation. One should perform one's own occupation. In each of the four varnas, one must perform some acts which are contaminated by material nature. This is inevitable. But by performing one's occupational duties for the Lord's service, all the defects become purified. So when we do something for Krishna, it becomes fully purified. We become purified because the devotees' natures, they're very expert. So by serving Krishna, they become purified. And they become expert by serving Krishna. So this was a section on the modes of material nature. Krishna, again, in this chapter, talks in detail about the modes and the different occupations in those modes of nature. Something that we've discussed before. Again, as I mentioned, this is in chapter 18, it's like review. And we're going over it also in a reviewing fashion. Now, this is section 2, so to say, of this chapter, where Krishna, after giving sort of the summary, now comes to the conclusion of pure devotional service. And so he's moving from Jnana Yoga to pure devotional service. And we're starting here from text 49, in this section 49 to 54. So text 51 to 53 says, being purified by his intelligence and controlling the mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being freed from attachment and hatred, one who lives in a secluded place, who eats little, who controls his body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance, and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship, and peaceful, such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. Wow, isn't this amazing? After saying all this, then Krishna really tells us what are, how to lead a perfect life. And it's not easy, right? It has everything. This is like, how can one be like this? This is why we engage in devotional service, because by engaging in devotional service, these qualities will naturally come. Yet Krishna is telling this because we also have to endeavor and aspire to attain these qualities. Right? Living in a secluded place means that one is not interested in socializing, in parties and all these things. One is interested in the ultimate goal of life. Because a devotee has to meet others to share Krishna consciousness. So living in a secluded place doesn't mean that that person is not going to the temple and doing programs or, preaching Krishna consciousness. No, that's happening. But secluded means not interested in the material social conflicts and this and that, and free from attachment and hatred, giving up the objects of sense gratification, controlling the body, mind, and power of speech, being always detached in a trance means always hearing and chanting about Krishna, free from false ego, false strength, false pride. These are all false, that we're so great, strong, free from lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, and free from false proprietorship. So such a person is elevated to the position of self-realization, because then when we do devotional service, we chant and we do our devotional activities in such a state of mind, in such a consciousness, then our heart and mind becomes fully purified. Right? Then we can really aspire for Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, we're always in anxiety that is this person taking away my position? Is this person doing this or that? But rather, we should be focused more on our relationship with Krishna. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. And then section 3, working in pure devotional service. Starting text 55. One must act in devotion following Krishna's dictation. If one does not, one will undoubtedly act in illusion. So Krishna has now given the whole Gita and the knowledge of the Gita that we have so patiently heard. And now he's telling that if you act with his direction in devotion, you'll be very happy and successful. But if you don't, it will lead to illusion. We don't have to do it, but this will be the result. Text 55. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. So again, Krishna, when we're feeling hopeless in that text 51 to 53, that I can never be like this, then he's saying, only by devotional service you can reach this stage. And in that consciousness of me, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Though engaged in all kinds of activities, my pure devotee, under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. So Krishna says it again, that though engaged in all kinds of activities, right? He's saying we can be engaged in all kinds of activities, meaning our work and whatnot. We have to do that, whatever we have to do. But my pure devotee, who takes shelter of me, who's under my protection, reaches the eternal and imperishable abode by my grace. He says it again, you will come to me. Previous verse, he says, you can enter the kingdom of God. So that is the way that the activity is there, it never stops. But by performing it in devotional service to Krishna, we can reach that ultimate abode. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Even as devotees, right, we can relate with it, that if we act through our false ego, we become lost, we become frustrated. But if we become conscious of Krishna, that what is Krishna's will, let me just try to serve him. It's not easy, easier said than done. Then we pass over all obstacles. But we must depend upon Krishna. We must take shelter of Krishna in such difficult, trying circumstances. If we take shelter of our false ego, which is what we normally do, then we become disturbed. So the key thing always more important than solving the problem is to be Krishna conscious. The key is to always be Krishna conscious, regardless if the problem is solved or not, or how solved it is, and to focus on the main things: our hearing, our chanting, our surrender to Krishna, and then whatever more one can do, one does. If you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. By your nature, you will have to be engaged in warfare. So, in fact, Krishna is telling this to someone who knows that they're not, in some ways, at least for the purpose of the Gita, so self-realized that they can, transcend their nature. He's saying, you're a Kshatriya, you will fight. By your nature, you will fight. But now the choice is if you want to act according to my direction, or you want to do fight in a way that is your direction. And therefore, what that means is that basically you won't fight right now, but later on won't be able to tolerate it and you'll go and fight. So better to do it under my direction in the correct way, that as I'm instructing you. Under illusion, you are now declining to act according to my direction. But compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. Nature is very powerful. The modes of nature, until we are a pure devotee of the Lord, are very powerful. One cannot, one's fundamental nature, we're made of these modes, the body is made of these modes, will drive us in certain directions. So our strategies, our challenges, what Krishna is saying is that we have to figure out how to engage our nature in Krishna service. Right? We cannot just break our nature and say, no, I have to change my nature, because that won't happen. But what we can do is we can say, this is who I am, but how can I spiritualize it by serving Krishna through that nature rather than my own senses? Just like some people have a strong leadership quality. They're outgoing people. Now, if you tell them, no, just sit in a solitary place, just chant, and don't ever become a leader, only be a follower, they'll do it for some time, but one day they explode like a cooker. It's just going to explode because their nature is to lead. They have to be like that. Their nature is like that. But then now the question is if they can lead, they can either lead a business or some enterprise or something for only themselves, or they can lead a business for Krishna, or they can lead a temple for Krishna, or they can lead a project for Krishna, or they can lead others towards Krishna because they have the leadership quality. So rather than breaking the nature and making oneself frustrated, like is the case in other processes where they say give up desire, or just become completely renounced. Bhakti is so wonderful, it's so positive. It says, let's make a lemon into lemonade. What seems to be an obstacle in spiritual life, let's use that in Krishna's service and purify it. Then, text 63. Iti te jnanam akhyatam guhyat guhyataram maya vimsrishyaitat asheshena yatechasi tatha kuru tatha kuru. So now is the punchline. Why is he saying all this? Is he saying, thus I've explained to you, knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So he tells him, look, you're going to act this way because it's your nature. If you act according to Krishna consciousness, you'll pass over all obstacles. I'm promising you, what seems so difficult to do, you'll pass over it because you're wanting to serve and please me and follow my direction. And if you don't follow my direction, you'll end up doing the same thing, but you'll be frustrated. And so now he's telling, but still, the decision is up to you. You do what you wish to do. And this is one of the most significant verses of the Gita, because it's showing that though Krishna may even know what we will do, though we are bound by the modes of nature, but Krishna still never wants to interfere with the freedom and free will of a soul. He never completely interferes with that. He always allows us to have some freedom, because freedom means life. Freedom means love. And we have to come on our own, based on our own desire. It's a very powerful message of of the how bhakti is a voluntary activity. Approaching Krishna, surrendering to Krishna, is inherently a very voluntary activity. Sarvaguhyatamam bhuya shunu me paramam vacha ishtasi me dhridam iti tato vakshami te hitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So Krishna is also saying, you do what you wish to do, but it's not that he's saying it like, you do what you wish to do, I have nothing to do with you. He's saying, you do what you wish to do, and I'm your very dear friend. No matter what you do, I'm still there with you. I'm there in the heart. But if you choose not to turn towards me, then the result will come. We also suffer. And because of that, I have your good, I have your interest in mind. Because of that, I'm giving you my good advice, because I'm your dearest friend. So a good friend is someone who gives good advice, and a good friend is someone who stays with us regardless if we follow that advice or not. They don't support our bad activities. A good friend is not someone who will be a partner in crime. No. They give us a good advice, they don't do it. And if we do it, then they're with us in the sense that when we will fall as a result of that action, we make the mistake, then they will help us get back on our feet. They will still be with us, though they don't support the activity or participate in it. In the same way, Krishna does not support or participate in our sinful activities. But when we choose to do them, then he still stays with us. He's still in the heart, helping the soul, guiding the soul somehow to come back to him. That, okay, they did this, they have to get the reaction, but now let me arrange so that somehow they meet a devotee, or they get some sukriti, they engage in some devotional service, so that they might become freed of this vice. Prabhupada says in one lecture, he says that when we want to do something wrong or bad, then Krishna gives us indication, don't do it. Don't do it, right? Our conscience tells us, don't do it. There'll be some obstacle in doing it. That's Krishna telling us, don't do it. But then Prabhupada says, if the soul is determined and says, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, then Krishna says, okay, then do it. But then you will learn by the reaction. But because he's so dear to us, he's so affectionate to us, he'll teach us by the reaction. And then once we learn our mistake, then again, he's helping us. He's always there with us. Just like yesterday, again, this devotee I was speaking to, I was telling them how Indra Prabhu in Vrindavan, he said that Krishna is, the verse is about to come, so maybe I should say it then. Yeah, I'll keep this in mind. So a little suspense. But I'll tell the detail later on. But he was saying how Krishna misses each soul, because he misses us more than we miss him. That's his affectionate relationship with each soul. So he really wants us to come back. He's not just set up a system of punishment and reward because he's a big king putting us through the machine of justice and prisons and all these things. No, he is personally interacting with every soul because he really wants us to reconnect in this original relationship that we have with Krishna. Then text 65, again, conclusion, right? Krishna's telling the final instructions. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So we found the exact same verse almost in chapter 9. And that verse is here also. And Krishna is telling us to worship him, become his devotee, offer his homage unto him, to think of him. And then he says, you will come back to me. 4 things. Think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. 4 things we must do. And then 66, right? So I said a conclusion tells us the take-home point. So after all of this, after all the instructions he gave, dhyana yoga, karma yoga, buddhi yoga, these 2 verses are the take-home points, right? So it's the still most confidential knowledge of all. 1, do this. This is the practice of bhakti. And 2, what's the mood? What's the those are the activities. What's the mindset? Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma shucha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Just surrender. Abandon all varieties of religion. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. And someone, I forget who, just listening, they were saying how normally Krishna tells us, do dharma, become very dharmic. Right? He tells Arjuna, do your dharma in chapter 2. This is your dharma, the kshatriya, it's your duty or your dharma to fight. Now he's telling him, give up dharma. So how confidential is this instruction? He's saying, give up dharma. But don't just give it up. You cannot just give it up. Mam ekam sharanam raja. Instead of that, surrender unto me. Just serve me. Just do my desire. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami ma shucha. So we sometimes, or people sometimes have the impression that in Krishna consciousness, we don't believe in the fact that how Jesus saves all your sins, right? As Jesus saves you, Jesus washes away all your sins. And sometimes people say that's a plus point in Christianity, that there's the path of grace. We find the same thing in the Gita. This is the path of grace. And Krishna's saying in the previous verse, you must do these things. So it's also the path of works and also the path of grace. Work and grace go together. There's always some effort and some mercy, because both must be there. Our surrender is expressed through our work. If I say, I surrender to you, but I don't do anything for you. If I say, I love you, but I don't do anything for you, then what is the meaning of those words, surrender and love? So, as I mentioned, abandoning all varieties of religion, surrendering to Krishna, this is where the heart is. And that heart is expressed through the works. Or when we do the works, that's expressing the heart. And then Krishna's grace, his mercy becomes fully manifest. Then, now we go back to that point of Aindra Prabhu. Then Krishna, after saying this, he also is telling us what does it mean to surrender in the next 3 verses. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted, or those who are not engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. Wow, Krishna's guaranteeing. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Nacha tasman manusheshu kashin me priyakritama bhavita na chame tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. So Krishna here is giving the promise. He's promising that there'll be no one more dear in this world than one who shares this knowledge with others. Why is this? Why is Krishna so concerned? So Ayendra Prabhu was saying that how we generally think that I want to reach Krishna, but Krishna, maybe he remembers me, maybe he doesn't. He has billions and trillions of souls. Who am I that he'll be concerned with? But he was saying that how in the spiritual world, every person has a service to Krishna, right? Every person has some relationship, and relationship means service. They have some specific service that they do for Krishna. And because each one of us is unique, and the way we do it is unique, we have our freedom, our free will. The way we serve Krishna and our particular service that we do, no one else in the three worlds can do that service for Krishna in the same way. And because each one of us is a devotee, a child of Krishna, Krishna is missing each one of us. We think, how is that possible? I miss only 5 people. If I have my friends, family, I'm okay. Well, that's because we are limited. Krishna is unlimited. Therefore, he can reciprocate as closely and as individually with unlimited numbers of souls in the same way that we do with 5 people. And even better, he does, right? So Krishna, therefore, is missing the soul even more than the soul is missing Krishna. Krishna has no pain in his heart. He has nothing. He's, Atma Rama. He's always joyful. He's Rama. Yet one pain that he has, not that he's in pain, but one pain that he has is that he is unhappy, unhappy seeing the suffering of the other living entities. He's unhappy to see that his devotee, his part and parcels are suffering so much in this material world, and Krishna's missing them. And that's why if someone helps in bringing them back to Krishna, Krishna becomes so happy. Because by bringing the souls back to Krishna, by sharing this spiritual knowledge of the Gita with them, we are reducing Krishna's pain. And that's a true friend. A true friend is someone who sees if his friend is in pain, he tries to help them in their pain by reducing that pain. But the problem is that Krishna himself cannot do it because he wants us to come back voluntarily. If he comes and forces us to come back to him, then what's the meaning of love? We are the ones who have left Krishna, so he wants us to come of our own accord. And this is why if someone else helps, like a devotee helps, then Krishna becomes very pleased because he cannot do it, but a devotee can do it for him. Just like if a husband or wife turns away, leaves a partner, a very close relationship, or makes a mistake and leaves something like that, then that other the spouse who they've left, they cannot go and bring that other person back. But someone else can do it. They can say, they're not so bad. Why don't you think about connecting with them again? Or why did you turn away from them? In fact, they're your dearest friend. They're a child and a parent. That's a good example. They're just a teenager and they just realize, I have to go to the city. They leave their parents. They go and they suffer there. The parents are thinking about their children more than the children are thinking about the parents. And then if someone goes to the city and tells them, that you are suffering here, you don't have any money, you're living on the street, but your father, he's a millionaire living in the suburb. Why don't you go back? A very mundane example here, by the way. It's Krishna's relationship is far greater, far more transcendental and spiritual. The analogy this helps. Then if someone does that, then the parents will become very grateful to that person. This person is helping my child and helping my relationship with my child. So they're such nice people. So Krishna thinks in the same way. And this is why we want to serve Krishna by sharing his glories with everyone. Because in this way, we are helping others and we ourselves are becoming very dear to Krishna. We're helping ourselves. And this is why it said that if we give Krishna, then we get Krishna. Because the greatest gainer is not the other person. The greatest gainer is us. When we give Krishna, then we get Krishna. We become dear to Krishna. That is the proof. One second, I just need to put my laptop on charging. So we may feel, oh, this, um, sharing Krishna consciousness is so much difficulty, so much trouble. Organizing this program at my home is so much trouble. Going and distributing books is too much. It's not practical. It's so much trouble. All of that is true, but um, Krishna knows that it's difficult, and that's why if we do it in spite of the difficulties, Krishna says, "There's no servant in this world more dear." Krishna says, clear and simple. Now, before we move on, just on this first verse, right? Why is Krishna saying that you shouldn't give this knowledge to those who are not austere? I mean, aren't those the people who we share the knowledge with? Are the people who are not austere, who are not devoted? What would be the meaning of sharing it with people who are already devoted? How would that be compassion? Or what would be the meaning of sharing it if everyone we give it to is only going to be the devoted? So Prabhupada explains this very nicely, and this is also in the Bible, right? Don't give pearls to the swine, right? Something like that, because they will mistreat it. They will not understand it. So the confidential knowledge we don't give, but we give them knowledge so that they gradually progress towards the confidential knowledge, right? So we cannot go up to someone on their first day and say, surrender to Krishna, and Krishna will remove all your suffering. We cannot tell them these things because they will disregard it and go away. If someone is envious of Krishna, they're an atheist, they're blaspheming Krishna, we say, Krishna is the most wonderful, beautiful, small 16-year-old boy, then they will make more fun of Krishna. Just like we see people, they take the narrations of the Bhagavatam, Krishna's dancing with the gopis, and they make light of it. They criticize Krishna for it. So to such people, we don't need to give them the confidential knowledge. But Krishna is so pleased if we bring them and gradually help them advance. So we give them Krishna prasadam so they can appreciate Krishna on that level. We have them hear the holy name of Krishna so that their heart can become purified. And we see over time they become purified. If somehow or the other we can engage them and then gradually bring them to the point where they can understand and appreciate the philosophy, and give them the spiritual knowledge that they are ready for. Also, Prabhupada said that Krishna is saying this, but the devotee is even more merciful than Krishna. So though the confidential knowledge is not given to those who are not austere or devoted because they don't understand or they will disrespect it, but the devotee will take the risk of even giving it to them, even if they're not fully ready. And this is what Srila Prabhupada did. This is why his painting, I put it here. Because look at his compassion. Just by seeing his face, you can see how compassionate Srila Prabhupada was. How deep and unlimited compassion he had. And he did what even Krishna doesn't expect the devotee to do, is he shared this knowledge with people who were completely unqualified. We give Krishna book on the street. It has the most confidential narrations of the Rasa Leela. But the Prabhupada took the risk of translating it and giving the instruction that we distribute it to every person, because among all of them, if even one takes it up, what a success. That is the point. So the devotees actually take exception to Krishna's instruction here, because their intense desire to follow text 69 and 68. We must so devotees also need to advance, and the more we give to devotees, Krishna becomes very happy. If we want to explain the supreme secret to devotees, guaranteed they'll get pure devotional service and they'll come back to me. But the devotees even explain this to the non-devotees because of their compassion. And then finally, Krishna tells the results of studying the Bhagavad Gita. He says, and I declare that he who studies this conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. So we have to listen with faith and without envy. There's many people who study the conversation of the Gita and who translate the Bhagavad Gita, but they don't say that Krishna is God. They can't stand any idea of a God. They just call Krishna the author or the narrator and ignore the verses where he says that he's a supreme personality of Godhead. They say, oh, he must be a figurative person in the narrative. And that's because they are reading and studying, they're listening, but with envy. They're envious of Krishna. And that doesn't lead to understanding the essence of the Gita. When one listens with faith and without envy, then they enter into Krishna's planets. O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? Krishna is asking Arjuna. I said all this. Were you paying attention? Has your ignorance and illusion gone? Arjuna responds, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. So this is the effect of the Gita. Living proof, Arjuna is. By hearing it, all our illusion goes away. Our memory, what is this memory is regained? Our memory of our spiritual identity, of our spiritual relationship with Krishna becomes manifest, which means the Gita can take us to the highest level of spiritual life. It can even reveal our Swarupa, as we read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the story of the Brahmana who was reading it upside down even, didn't know how to read, but was just trying to read the Gita. But Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, becomes so happy. He's reading, he's endeavoring, that he reveals to him his spiritual identity. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. Then Arjuna tells Krishna, I am convinced, I'm fully free from all illusion. And now the narrator of the Gita, Sanjay, speaks to Dhritarashtra. So Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, but Sanjay is narrating what Krishna spoke to Arjuna. And so now he is giving his end, his conclusion. So Sanjay has heard this also. What is his realization? This was Arjuna's realization. Now the second listener to the Gita is saying, text 74, Sanjay said, thus have I heard the conversation of two great souls, Krishna and Arjuna. And so wonderful is that message that my hair is standing on end. O king, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. O king, as I remember the wonderful form of Lord Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. So we think that, reading Gita is something ordinary, right? It's just the Gita. It's just the Gita, right? But actually, if we read it properly, not just if, we will experience that when we read it properly, when we teach it properly, we will actually feel so ecstatic because Krishna is in it, he's present in his conversation. And then he's saying, as I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, I take pleasure in every moment, being thrilled at every moment. So the amazing thing, like Gita is so deep, every word in the verse in this Gita, that Sanjay is saying, I repeatedly recall, again and again, I'm recalling. So this is suggesting, this is saying clearly that again and again we should read the Gita. We should recall the words of Krishna, because by doing that, we will become thrilled. We will become full of pleasure and happiness, because we will meet Krishna in his instructions in the Gita. We will feel the thrill, the spiritual inspiration. My Guru Maharaj, I finished Bhakti Shastri. I've told this story before, maybe all of you know, but I finished Bhakti Shastri, and this course that you're taking, finished reading the Gita, and I went to my Guru Maharaj and I said, I finished the Gita and I finished the Bhakti Shastri. Maharaj, you see, this is my certificate. I had this certificate and showed it to him. And he was happy to see it. But rather than congratulating me, he said, so is this your first time or your second time or your third time? I said, Maharaj, I finished it. It never even occurred to me. I thought he's going to congratulate me and all these things. He said, oh, this is just your first time. You should do it again and again. You should take Bhakti Shastri many times. And then I realized it wasn't just about getting the certificate, getting the knowledge. Reading the Gita is about the taste. It's about always being in touch with Krishna. And then since that time, I've been teaching Bhakti Shastri because that's the way to do it again and again. How many times can you study it again and again? After studying it, you have to share it with others. Then you do it, you study it again and again by teaching it again and again. And it's a fact that every time I teach it, it's like so many times we've done Bhakti Shastri. Every time it's like new, like I didn't hear this the last time. I don't think we covered this the last time. This is so wonderful. Every time it's just so new. And by the time we finish the Gita, you're feeling like there couldn't be a better book than this. There couldn't be something more valuable there couldn't be better instructions in this world than what Krishna's given. And there's some devotees in this movement who have read the Gita carefully over 30 times. I'm on my, third or fourth time, but they've done it over 30 times. Imagine. And the devotee who I knew who done it over 30 times, he said, once you do it that many times, you live the Gita, you hear the Gita, you breathe the Gita. It's so nice. Your consciousness becomes Krishna conscious. So again and again, it's such an honor to teach the Gita. We all, to do it, to teach Bhakti Shastri requires a whole formal process, and then you have to get certifications, and also teacher training certification. So all of you should do that. But even if you cannot do that, teaching the Gita in your own circles is so nice. You just have to, if you're a lady, you find a group of women who want to read the Gita every day, and you read it with them, or not every day, even once a week. And you make a Gita reading group and you read with them, and at different points you stop and you explain it. You don't have to be good at giving classes. You just read, and then when you come to a point that you're like, oh, I can share something on this, then you share it, you explain it. And then after that, you continue reading. So you don't have to worry about, do I have a 30-minute class prepared? And similarly, the men, at work or in their friend circle, their tennis group, you can find a group of people, because Gita is so famous that, oh, I also want to read the Gita. And you find people and you just start reading with them. You make a Zoom call once a week and you meet and you read with them, and they'll be into it, because who doesn't want to cover a Gita or join a reading group? So no need to tell them they have to practice anything or do anything. Just read the Gita with us. And they'll start reading and you'll start enjoying it. And every week you'll feel like, oh, I was about to get so angry, or I was about to do something wrong. But by reading the Gita, my mind got purified. My senses got inspired, enhanced. And you'll keep reading it. You'll keep sharing it. So at a certain point, we just cannot study ourselves. right? They say when you teach something, then you actually learn it. At a certain point, we study it by teaching it, and when we teach it, we study it. And Krishna is telling us this is what we need to do, right? This is why after we've heard it at the end, he's giving the next instruction that now whoever is reading this, you're done hearing it. Now share it with others and become even more dear to me. See, when we study it, we worship Krishna by our intelligence. So reading ourselves is very important. This is our worship to Krishna. And then we become more dear by then sharing it with others. And then he gives the final punchline, Sanjay, Yatra Yogeshwaro Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Tatra Shir Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Wherever there's Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there's Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. This is my opinion. So then if we bring Krishna into our life, we don't have to worry about anything else. He says, wherever there's Krishna, wherever there's Arjuna. Now, where will they be both? Wherever the Gita is being studied and recited. There Krishna is there and Arjuna is there. He's the listener, Krishna is the speaker. There will also be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. So Prabhupada said that when we hold a Gita discussion, a program, any spiritual, Krishna conscious program in our home, then he says it's so nice, it's purifying the heart, it's pleasing Krishna, but it's so nice that even the demigods and the sages will come to your home and hear. Actually, I heard my Guru Maharaj say this. He said this when he was instructing to do a program in the home, a weekly program. Then he said that Prabhupada said that even the demigods will come and listen to that Krishna Katha, to Krishna's speaking. That is the conclusion. Okay, so we will stop here. And any comments, questions? So I should say one thing. We only have 9 minutes. I have to end we have another call after this. Is that so we finished all 18 chapters, and now after this will be the exam. So we have generally it's been very systematic. We've been doing it. So we want to wait maybe 3 weeks total before we start the next book. So I would say maybe like October, what is it? October 5th, or 1, 2, 3. Yes, 1, 2, 3. October 5th. That seems realistic. October 5th, we could start the next book, which is the Nectar of Devotion. And in that meantime, that's your time to take the exam. So 1 week you need for preparation, full week, because you'll need to finish the homework for all 18 chapters. If you're up to speed, then that means finishing the homework for chapter 18. That's there. Then you need about a week to prepare for the exam. All the verses. The Gita is the big book, right? So you have a lot of verses. You have a lot of homework questions to review. And then the following week, sometime in the week, you take the exam. The way the exam works is very simple. Everything is simple, nothing complicated. Is that when you're ready to take the exam, you email me. You message me the email address of your proctor. So the rule is, the way Bhakti Shastri is done by VIG rules, is that a unbiased, non-relative proctor needs to oversee the exam, just to make sure that you're not cheating. It's a closed book, closed note exam. to get your certificate. And this is for the people who are getting the certificate. Some people on the call are just listening and you're not taking the course, you don't need to do it. But those who are just taking it for the course, you'll need to send me the email of the person who's doing it. Once you send it, I send them the exam. You set up a time with it. When I send it, it has the instructions on it, and they will you'll take the exam. The exam is about 2 to 3 hours. I don't remember exactly how long, but the time is flexible. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to do it. It has it has you have to write down all the verses in Sanskrit and English, and you can do it in English. You can write the Sanskrit in English or in Devanagari script, whatever you like. So you have to write the verses in Sanskrit and English, and then you also need to have one essay question, which I will give you in advance what that essay question is. And then you have, multiple choice and short answer questions, about 30, 35 of them. And those multiple choice and short answer questions are directly from the homework. So if you've done the homework and you remember the content of the homework, you'll be fine on the exam. So everything is closed notes, but you know everything in advance. You know all the verses that you need to know in advance. So if you know those, you're ready. You know all the questions in advance because those are from the homework. And the essay question, which is not from the homework, that I will give you in advance. So the idea is you just have to put the work in. The exam is an excuse to study Prabhupada's books. The exam is not there to tax our brains or to make us go through difficult exams. It's just there to make sure that we've done everything, and so we can write it down. So thank you. So now just a few minutes for any questions. Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you so much for this class. I was just trying to ping you in between. So I was just thinking, kindly confirm if my understanding is correct, that my nature, if I want to really understand my nature,
Yes.
how should be, I mean, how should I understand? Because I think I feel that my nature is built because of the conditioning that has happened due to the modes of material nature that has acted on me, my mind, all these lives that have been coming and going. And then
Yes.
the nature that has been built, I still, keep wondering many times that what is really good for me? What is my real nature? How one can understand that?
Yes. So in Kali Yuga, this is why Kali Yuga is such a fallen age, because in Kali Yuga, our natures are all mixed up. It's very hard to figure out what our actual nature is. However, you'll be drawn by certain activities, right? Like if someone's a businessman, they always, they'll just start doing a business. They'll be dissatisfied working as an employee. If someone's a teacher, they'll like to teach. So whatever is kind of the overarching thing that you like to do, that is most likely your nature. And Krishna is saying that we can engage that nature in Krishna's service. The thing in Kali Yuga, and this is the thing that even ISKCON devotees oftentimes we make a mistake, is that we can't get too much into the varnas and ashramas. The varnas, ashramas, yes, those are the stages of life, but the varnas, because the varna is clear when there's garbhodhan sanskar, but because the garbhodhan sanskar is gone, people are, they're like, well, really, I do everything. I like doing carpentry work. I like to study books. I don't know who I am. And that's true. They truly don't. So no need to force it. Whatever we like to do, that's our nature. Engage in Krishna's service. Krishna says you can't repress it. You can't force your nature, but you can engage it. So that's my understanding, Prabhu. Does
Thank you.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. My ultimate understanding is whatever I have, just engage in Krishna's service the way
Yes.
I can do it my best. Yeah,
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have to stop now. I have to go to the next call. So maybe you could just message me the questions or you can post them on the group. So thank you. And Haripriya, next time you'll give the summary, okay? We'll meet one more time. I'll post it sometime just to meet, and I can answer questions, summarize. So that time you can give the summary, okay? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Dandavad Pranam Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dandavad
Thank you.
Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you.
Dandavad Pranam
Thank you.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.